Hello friends, in this tutorial we are going to learn about RESTful web services. Here you can see I have opened JAX-RS 2.0 API specification. So here, before going through this, I just want to tell what is REST. REST is a representation of state transfer, which will be used to invoke the resources over the HTTP. And we do use HTTP methods like put, get, post, and delete. Those are the commonly used HTTP methods to invoke the resources. And why RESTful web services is very much used these days, because it doesn't follow any standard input or request type like how we normally have it in SOAP web services, where we'll be having SOAP header, SOAP body, and SOAP fault. So that is the way we actually follow the standard way of sending the request to a client or a server. Even in the same way, the response will be in the same structure with the response object back in the XML or whichever type is requested. So that is the way SOAP was designed. But here in RESTful web services, we can simply pass a string as a input to the web services, and we can get the string as a response. As well as we can pass XML, we can pass JSON object, images. So it support all different data types in the simple form. We are not going to follow any rigid standards to send any request or a response. So this is the one of the easy way, and it supports HTTP and HTTPS protocol. Means uh, we can invoke the resources over HTTP or HTTPS protocol. And here here what you are seeing on my screen, it is a JAX-RS 2.0 version, and it is having these many packages. First one is WSRS, next is RS client, RS container, RS core, and RS extension. So first one is nothing but it is having some of the exception and the annotation types. Annotation types are nothing but which we normally use it in our RESTful web services. Um, for example, what I just told, we have HTTP method like at get, at head, at option, at put, what you are seeing here, right? These are the HTTP methods which comes under WSRS package. Get is idempotent because the request will never get modified, even though we are even the response will never get idempotent is something, even though we are invoking our resources multiple times, the that will not get modified. So that is the get method. Next is post. Post will always try to create the resource. Put will what put will do, put will actually it's a non-idempotent. Means if already there is if there is already resource, then it will try to update. If there is no resource, it will try to create. That is how put works. What about delete? Delete will try to delete the resources. So these are the commonly used HTTP methods in the RESTful web services. And these are some other packages. You can go through each one of it to understand more about it. It does provide cookies, cache controller. So we can actually REST supports like caching mechanism. So those all things are defined here in the JAX-RS API, not this one specification. So let me just go over some sample example using get method. So what I am going to show you here is a RESTful web service which is helping me to calculate sum of two integer values. How that can be done is, first create like normal dynamic web project. So I'm using NetBeans for IDE and Glassfish server to deploy my project and run. So here what is done, created a simple my web app dynamic web project, and then create one Java class. What Java class is having a add path, which is the like Jack Harris annotation, like annotation is used, and I'm mentioning my service is called with calculate. You can mention calculate service also. So these all modeling of our URL, like so that it is very easy to understand for anyone, because the person who is going to invoke my web service, it should be self-explanatory. So in that way we have to name our web service. So here simple class is written, add path is written, add path is mentioned, means this is the one in URI, like the in the URL will be mentioning the service name as calculate. So it is simply having one method which will actually help me to calculate sum of two integers. So how that is done? What it is going to do? It will get the two input value, two input integers. So get method is used. Next, add path. What is the path which will be invoked? This behavior, to invoke this kind of functionality or behavior, I am going to use sum, because it is calculating sum of two values. So sum is used and the input is passed like this in the path param. There are different types in which we can send the input to a web service. This is one of the example, which is path param, and there is some query param, matrix param. Those we will see in the next tutorial. And what is the return type for my web service? Is the string, right? If it is a string, we can use media type text or HTML. The return type is string. To get the input, add path param interfaces annotation is used by mentioning the name of the argument which is passed, which is an integer a and integer b, and just get those a and b here. A plus b will be having the result written in the form of string. So this is the very simple way of calculating sum of two integers using RESTful web service using get method and path param. Now the web service is ready. I want to plug it into my web application. So for that, create one more class, like saying application config. What it will be doing, it will have one more like path for my entire RESTful web services. It will be invoked through this path, application path. This is not something context root. Context root is separate. This is the REST app URL parameter. And so the simple class is written, which is extending application, and application is again a if you do command control, this is nothing but a class. Okay, class which is having only get singletons and get class. We have to override get class method in our application config. So what will get class do? It will add all the calculate, like I have the calculation Java, right? That has to be added in the set and it has to be returned it. That is what we are doing here. We have the set and that has been added, calculation has been added into the set, that is returned. So this is how my RESTful web service is plugged into my application. Then that is it. Then just right click and do build and deploy into the server. Once the var is deployed into the server, what we can do, we can make a call, just like let me show you how we can do it. Here we have to mention localhost is the host name, HTTP HTTP is the protocol which is used, which is not shown here. Let me. Okay, HTTP colon localhost 8080 is a port. My web app is a context root. REST app is the application, that web service application which we declared there. Calculate is the web service name. Sum is the B functionality what I have to do, and these are the two arguments. In the same way, let me explain one more time. So my web app is the context root. REST app is the application path. Next, calculate is the RESTful web services path. This is the functionality, some functionality path by passing two input parameter. So the same way, if you run it, it will return 7 is the output. So this is the simple way of implementing a RESTful web services using get HTTP method and path param. So if you like this video, please do comment or like below this video. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.